Today, an elderly pro-life volunteer shot in Michigan. A new study shows the COVID vaccine can, in fact, pass into breast milk. Add that to another I told you so. And another child gender clinic deletes their entire website after being exposed by libs of TikTok. We've got all of that and more coming up, and it all starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez, and I am joined today by the one, the only Stu Burkier, host of Stu Does America, which you should be subscribed to. Yeah, I got it. You watch it on BlazeTV, you watch it on Pluto, you watch it on all of the other places, but you also need to subscribe on YouTube.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly.
Thank you. Also joined by Alex Stein, BlazeTV contributor and also host of Conspiracy Castle, and Alex Stein.
And only follow me if you want to be on an FBI most wanted list or a surveillance list. So if you don't want to be on that list, don't follow me.
Yeah, so like maybe not subscribe. I don't know. It depends. Do you want the FBI showing up at your house and raiding all of your,
classified documents?
Yeah, Mike Lindell's like, why'd you take the pillow? I made that pillow. Why are you taking the pillow? There's nothing. No. All right. So I want to get into the stories of the day here. So yesterday, I would be remiss if I didn't play for you guys a wonderful, brilliant clip from the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, who we know you thought that Jen Psaki was bad. You get an affirmative action hire in after Jen Psaki and you realize how low the bottom of the barrel goes. But yesterday, Peter Doocy asked her, Karine Jean-Pierre, if Joe Biden thinks American cities are safe. Well, you, I'm sure, are shocked to hear that she dodged the question and then rambled on before claiming that, listen, it's not a yes or a no question, Peter. Watch.
Thank you, Karine. Does President Biden think America's big cities are safe?
Can you say more?
Well, we know that thefts and robberies are up about 20% in the first half of this year, so I'm wondering if he thinks America's big cities are safe.
Are you talking about the New York Times story specifically? Or is that what you're referring to?
The murder rate's still 30% above its 2019 level. They're all from the Council on Criminal Justice. So we've seen some high-profile examples of this. The Washington Commanders running back was being mugged. He got shot. Karen Bass, member of Congress, had her house robbed. These are high-profile people. So should everyday Americans who are not in the public eye feel safe?
So I'll say this, that same story also stated that the crime is complicated and multifaceted. Look, this is a president who has secured historic funding to make sure that law enforcement has what it needs, especially, and he was able to do this in the face of opposition from Republicans.
So I guess just the original question, does President Biden think America's big cities are safe?
It is not a yes or no question.
I mean, I feel like it is. It's a very simple yes or no. Did you guys see the video where Peter Doocy was asking her about a quote that Jen Psaki had made regarding crime? And he literally said the quote verbatim about how, if people are voting on this, like this is going to be bad for the Democrats. And he read it to her and she was like, actually, you're mischaracterizing the quote. And he literally read the quote verbatim. And she's like, no, that's a mischaracterization of what she said, actually. This woman is so bad. We thought poor man's Peppermint Patty was bad.
No, it's true. If I may go into the conspiracy castle here for just a moment, Alex, I would like to say that I believe that she was hired specifically because Jen Psaki went and figured out how to make herself look good.
So Jen Psaki directly hired her.
She directly got this hire done.
That's brilliant.
Because she believed, she's like, how can I make myself look like I have a good legacy? And the answer, of course, is hire Karine Jean-Pierre.
It's the George Stephanopoulos playbook, I mean, now he's a big TV guy, and you see Psaki wants a TV heat. She wants to be on TV now. So she throws KJP under the bus. Oh, my God, Psaki, you are the best press secretary ever. You were so good.
And I got to say, she does look legitimately great in comparison to Karine Jean-Pierre.
That's a fact.
She is absolutely horrible. And Peter Doocy's did a great job. Yeah. He's literally the only one who ever asks a tough question.
Which is sad.
One minor critique I would have of that particular point is when she says, are you referring to the New York Times story? The only reason she says that is because she knows she has a piece of paper in front of her that quotes from that story. She knows she has the written down pushback already because she can't think for herself. She has to read every single one of these things. So whatever she says, are you referring to? Just say no. Just go in a different direction because that is what she's doing. She's loading up for her to read here. I also, and this is. I went to Alex with a conspiracy question. I go to Sarah for the fashion question.
Yes.
How much money are we spending on Karine Jean-Pierre's wardrobe?
I wonder that all the time, too.
$1 billion?
I know,
Probably
because she always wears those bright colors.
Bright colors,
to make
they look
herself
very
pop.
fancy,
Yes.
they look very expensive, and I have not seen one repeat.
I
Every
know.
single day. She's
Come
got a
on,
new outfit.
okay, I had to step in. If I'm the press secretary, when primetime press secretary, you're never going to see the same tie. You're never going to see the repeat outfit.
Tie?
Yeah, but
A tie?
No, you're
those
saying,
things are $2,000 a piece.
That's a whole outfit.
You don't understand style and razzle
We're
dazzle.
spending more on Karine Jean-Pierre than Ukraine.
No,
yes, we're spending $80 billion on her
Did you just see
wardrobe.
Congress just passed another $12 billion to Ukraine?
That's a week for her.
Oh my gosh! No, but though, on a serious note, though, because I know we're goofing around, but this is the question is a pretty serious question.
Yeah.
Are big cities safe or not? And I think the clear answer is no.
Well, the fact that she has to say, "Oh, it's multifaceted. I can't quite answer your question in a yes or a no," really gives you your answer, doesn't it?
Because she should. She's such a liar. I'm surprised she didn't just say yes.
Yeah.
That's how you. If I was her, I just would have said yes.
Well, that's what Jen Psaki did.
Yeah, of course.
Right? Like
that's
she would lie to you with this condescending, smug look on her face. But at least she could do it without reading from
she's
a
at
piece
least
of
good
paper.
at lying.
Yeah.
And Karine Jean-Pierre just says, we've been very clear about this, and then doesn't say anything clear. That's her typical response. Or she reads it right off the paper. I mean, reading a quote from the New York Times that says it's multifaceted is not a good argument.
So, Stu, we're paying that much money for her to wear something that she doesn't even need to be up there speaking to you about because you just released the book, right? Like she's literally reading to you from a notebook. Just photocopy the notebook and show us what she's going to say and we'll save the money.
I did have this idea a while ago, which is that basically we should just use Siri. Because if you put the text on the screen, it'll speak the text, and you could just Siri right into the microphone. We could put anybody up there and just press play, because that's all she's doing. I mean, she really is. Look, this is what happens when you hire someone based on their skin color and their genitals and which genitals they prefer. When that's your list of qualifications, you get Karine Jean-Pierre, who might be a very nice person and might be qualified to do something, but just not this. It's clearly not this. She's not good at this, guys.
She has the Hunger Game vibe, where she's in the nice clothes, but she's telling us what we should think. She's like, telling us. She's creating the narrative by saying these words like multifaceted, instead of just giving us, hey. It's not that safe in Chicago where the gun violence is, skyrocketing. It's not safe in Los Angeles where the bail reformer people, a 23-year-old, a UCLA grad student was murdered in a high-end furniture store by a guy that had 17 prior convictions. And the list goes on of people that belonged in jail for their prior, criminality that are out on the street committing new crimes and making more and more victims.
So case in point, I want to bring up this other story about the pro-life Michigan woman. So Right to Life Michigan, this is a pro-life nonprofit organization, said in a statement that one of their volunteers was shot in the back by an unidentified man last week while passing out pamphlets. This is an 84-year-old woman who was going door to door passing out pamphlets for an upcoming abortion-related ballot proposal. And the statement said she was shot while leaving a residence where she engaged in a heated conversation. She's still recovering and wishes to remain anonymous, which who can blame her for that? Because apparently, not only is the crime higher in a lot of these particularly inner, urban areas, but also it's worth shooting someone and trying to kill them because they believe that babies should live, I guess. But I guess when you don't value life, you think that babies are, disposable, when you think that, you should be able to just throw away your offspring, I guess we shouldn't be surprised that people would not value, an 84-year-old woman's life.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very slippery slope that abortion is on, which is when you start dehumanizing human beings, the rest of the consequences down that road are pretty clear. Like, you don't care if human life is lost. That's the problem with it. It was very central to what happened in Germany back in the day. They started not with Jews, they started with babies that had ailments. The first death by the Nazi regime when it comes to these big medical systems they wind up building was a baby who had real medical problems, a baby that was born with all sorts of birth defects. And they just said, well, wouldn't it be nicer if we just got rid of that one? That slowly built, and in the Nazi case, pretty quickly built into something much, much darker. But, reality, like human life is human life. And when you start saying, oh, well, that human life doesn't really count and that one doesn't really count, you can get yourself down these roads that you are disregarding the sanctity of life generally, and that is a societal breakdown. And it's like, you come up to a split in the road, and one road at the very end of it has, Nazi city. You don't take 3 or 4 steps down that road. You go the other way. You never go down the Nazi road.
Well, and I want to make this point, because this is a serious point. We talk about it. Modern day abortion is a eugenics program, and it's not much different than World War II or what the Nazis did. So people can't see that. People can't see the forest for the big tree in front of their face. And if they knew that Margaret Sanger and the people, Bill Gates, William Gates Sr., Bill Gates' dad, started this as a eugenics program, they would probably have a different opinion of it. But now it's under this guise of, abortion is women's health care. And that's where it really just kind of, for me, it makes me sick to think, like, this is a eugenics program to kill babies that may not have, the resources that you and I grew up with, because they're poor. And people will say that, oh, well, would you rather be poor or aborted? And people will really say, I'd rather be aborted. And that's obviously a lie, but that's where we're at, and it's disgusting.
Yeah, so I want to touch on a couple more things here. I don't know if we're going to have time to get to New Orleans, who, over in New Orleans, they're hiring civilians to do police work because they can't keep their cops. But I want to get to Philadelphia first. This past weekend, over 100 looters, many of whom appeared to be juveniles, pillaged and destroyed a Philadelphia Wawa. Police apparently arrived during the event but made no arrests. Here's a little bit of that scene. So, seems to be organized, I guess. This is a lot of people showing up all at the same time, just completely destroying the place. I mean, if those of you who are listening on podcasts, there's food and stuff all over the floor. Broken, liquid all over the floor. It's just a complete disaster in there.
It's similar to a George Floyd protest, kind of.
I mean, it's like, why? Why? And then in one video, a young woman asks the deli worker at the Wawa if they're going to make the sandwiches or just keep recording all of this. Watch.
That's me.
It's going to be a while. She really wanted to get her sandwich. I want to know if she expected to just take it out for free or if she was going to actually pay for it.
That's a great question. I don't know. Was she involved in the actual destruction? It would be funny if she just came in as a normal customer. It's like, where's my sandwich? What's going on?
I ordered this online. Why isn't it ready?
I will say Wawa is one of the greatest places on earth. I freaking love Wawa. If you don't live in a place where a Wawa is, that's the thing that angers me. I think most of the story, because I love Wawa and I hate to see bad things happen to Wawa. And I can understand why she wanted her sandwich. They have great sandwiches at Wawa. But this is a fundamental part of civilization, right? We all have a trust with each other, right? That you won't do things like that. Anyone can do that at any time, at any store. You can walk into a store with 100 people and ransack any store you want, basically. I mean, it really is just the decision to do something that breaks the sort of bonds that we have as human beings. As soon as you don't care about other people and their property, and you don't care, and you think everybody's wronged you, and you believe the media hype that everybody has been squashing you and oppressing you all this time, well, you lose that connection to others. You don't care what happens to them. And this stuff is happening all over the country right now, where people, usually it's not even, that seemed to be more like vandalism. Maybe there was some looting involved as well with food and stuff, but it was just throwing stuff around. And what we've really seen are high-end operations. You're going into luxury goods stores and stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars at once. And it's really difficult to stop when it's organized like that. What usually stops this is there's a small percentage of people who want to be involved in illegal activity, that want to break the rules, that want to break the law, that want to hurt others and other businesses and destroy our civilization and our basic bonds between each other. And that whatever that unspoken rule is, because it's not the law. The law can stop you, can implement a punishment after you do something wrong. This is like even if you get away with it, none of us would walk into a store and do that. It's not. We're not stopped by the law. Well, Alex, that's a great point. Very good point. But like generally speaking, upstanding members of a society aren't going to go in and do that stuff whether they're going to get caught or not. Now we're getting to a point where people want to hurt others. They want to commit crimes because they have no regard for anybody else, and that's a massive problem.
Well, I just want to make this point. Because we've lost self-respect, we don't respect other people. And I think you see these other copycats like you're mentioning. People don't respect one another, so they don't respect anybody's property, they don't respect anybody's stuff. And as a matter of fact, they almost feel better if they mess somebody else's stuff up because it makes them feel better about theirs. So I think this is just going to set off more copycat incidences of people going in and doing the ransacking.
Well, listen, that was nice what you guys both said or whatever. But this is called The News and Why It Matters, which means I need to ask the most significant part of the story, which is why is it called Wawa?
It's a great question. I don't know why it's called Wawa.
It really bothers me.
It's a terrible name.
I don't like it at all. I don't like saying
Stu
it.
is right though. They have a little board you order on. They have delicious sandwiches. I was just there in Florida. It's actually quite delicious.
So
they have milkshakes. You pick an Oreo milkshake.
But why is it called Wawa?
Because they want to make us feel like an infant. I don't know.
It's weird. I don't like it.
I don't know either. I'm just saying, look at American hero Devontae Smith's commentary on Wawa, and that will teach you what you need to know about this establishment. It's fantastic.
That's a player he ate there every day, I think, since signing his
contract.
I
was going to mention to you, I think I heard that all of those people were Eagles fans, but we got to go to break. First,
probably.
We want to thank
as an Eagles fan, I can confirm that.
we want to thank our sponsor, Moink. 60% of U.S. pork production, I don't know if you guys realize this, it comes from one company. They're owned by the Chinese, and they give their hogs something called ractopamine, which is apparently banned in like 160 countries, including China. But you're going to find it in America in your grocery aisle every day. That is why you need to try Moink. Moink they've got grass-fed and grass-finished. They've got it all beef and lamb, pastured pork and chicken. They've got salmon, and they deliver it directly to your door. You can choose whichever meat you like delivered in all of these boxes, and you can cancel anytime. We live off of Moink meat in my household. I tell you guys this all the time, but my older son, is obsessed with their bacon. Everything we've tried from them has been amazing, especially the filet, which you're in luck because if you go to moinkbox.com/news, you will get a free filet mignon in every order for a year. Don't miss out on this. Go to moinkbox.com/news. That is MOINK box.com/news. The News and Why It Matters exclusive right here. Wawa is a Native American word for the Canada goose that was found in the Delaware Valley over 100 years ago. And their original dairy farm was built on the land over in a rural section of Pennsylvania called Wawa. That is why we use the goose on the logo.
Huh. I've seen the bird on the logo. I had no idea if that was because of that.
And as an ornithologist, I should have known that. I'm the ornithology expert at the place.
I just still don't like it. Is the thing.
You don't like the name?
I don't like the name.
The establishment's fantastic, though.
I believe you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go there one time if
you
I
have
ever
to go there. You've really never been to Wawa?
No.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they don't have them in Texas. They
but
should,
they're in
though.
Florida. They're in a few places.
I'll go.
Yeah.
I'll go and report back to you guys. So let's switch gears here. A new study from the Journal of the American Medical Association revealed trace amounts of the mRNA COVID vaccine were found in the breast milk of some lactating women. The Journal tweeted, "Caution is warranted regarding breastfeeding infants younger than 6 months in the first 2 days after maternal COVID-19 vaccination." This study, by the way, included 11 healthy lactating women that were asked to collect and immediately freeze samples of their breast milk after receiving either the Moderna or the Pfizer vaccine within 6 months of delivering their newborn babies. 7 samples from 5 women showed trace amounts of both of those particular vaccines.
I have to interject.
Go ahead.
That's why we had the baby formula shortage, because they want everybody drinking vaccine milk. Conspiracy Castle.
Conspiracy Castle.
Oh, that is a good conspiracy theory.
That's a tinfoil hat of the day.
I just, it's one of those things where I've been going through the last almost, 3 years now. It's like it actually doesn't make me feel good to know that I was right about some of these things, particularly this one, because I was like pleading with people online. I tweeted out the screenshots of the all of the Pfizer documentation and was just like, please do not get this if you are pregnant. Do not get this if you are breastfeeding and then breastfeed your infant, please. And I was called all of these names, and it's like, here we are, and I don't want to say I told you so, but I freaking told you so, and I wish you guys would have listened, not to these stupid establishment doctors who are just parroting what they're hearing from effing Anthony Fauci, but actually take a little common sense and go, hey, we don't know enough about this drug, but what we do know is that there are a lot of drugs that go from mother to infant in breast milk. Maybe we should just not do it.
I mean, look, if you're pregnant, I mean, taking as many precautions as possible is
they tell you don't eat sushi, don't eat deli meat while you're pregnant. Oh, but definitely get this injection.
Now, look, a lot of that stuff too. They are very worried about everything, which is what was part of it interesting about that part of the dialogue about the vaccine when it comes to pregnant women. They are so careful with deli meat and sushi and a sip of wine and all these things that I don't know. Did they really do anything? My guess is they probably don't. But still, they were they're always psychotic about that stuff. And they shame mothers for whatever they do. If they have a piece of sushi, they shame them. Look, mothers should be able to make their own decisions, especially when it comes to carrying a child in their own womb. We would like them to live to the point of birth. That's one thing that we do pretty strongly believe about the women's choice. But when it comes to how a woman raises their kid and the medications they give to them, should always be the mother's choice. I mean, I don't think I can't think of any exceptions to that.
But they need the information available to make the decision rather than the doctor just being like, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's like, well, wait, here's the study right here. Maybe you could have told them, given informed consent to them, where you're like, yeah, actually, we don't know. So if you're concerned about that, maybe just don't get the shot, because if you are a breastfeeding mother, odds are you're not 70 years old and you're within the age range where this is not going to be a threat to you. So you give them all of the information. Don't just regurgitate what Anthony Fauci told you.
I think that's the most prescient point right there, is that there's never a huge advantage for a woman of childbearing age really to take the vaccine anyway. You're 70 years old, you're 80 years old, there's a different story there, a different piece of calculation, a different calculation to make. That was the biggest problem with that. I think, I'm on record thinking that, you should be able to take the vaccine if you want to take the vaccine. You should also be able to take ivermectin if you want to take ivermectin. Whatever you think works, it should be your own decision, because you're an individual and you get to make up your own mind on these things. The pressure campaigns, the threatening of firing, the mandating, all of this, none of that was ever necessary. It's a big part of the reason everyone got divided over all of this stuff, instead of those initial 4 days where we seem to actually care about other people. All that it makes everything worse. And instead of just being honest with people and letting them make their own decisions, they went the other road, and it did not work.
So I want to get your thoughts, Alex, but I also want to throw into this conversation here a clip. I just think it's just so incredible, of Dr. Paul Offit. This is the director of the Vaccine Education Center at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. He's also a member of the FDA Vaccine Advisory Committee. He also, by the way, is one of the biggest vaccine shills you will ever hear from in your life. And even he is telling CNN in this exchange, I don't know. I'm not really fully sold on the benefits of this third shot outweighing the potential risks or harm of the actual shot. Watch.
What I fear is that they're going to say everybody should get it, when in fact a healthy young person really is unlikely to benefit from a booster dose. And so I hope they target it more specifically to those really who are most likely to benefit from this additional dose.
If it is in fact authorized, Pfizer would be authorized for 12 and up, as you point out, Moderna 18 and up. Why not get it, right? If it does give you, even if it's a smaller benefit, is there any reason not to get the booster?
I think when you're asking people to get a vaccine, I think there has to be clear evidence of benefit. And we're not going to have clinical studies, obviously, before this launches, but you'd like to have at least human data. People, getting this vaccine,
you'd like to have
see
human
a clear
data.
and dramatic increase in neutralizing antibodies. And then at least you have a correlate of protection against BA4, BA5. Because if you don't have that, if there's not clear evidence of benefit, then it's not fair, I think, to ask people to take a risk, no matter how small. The benefit should be clear.
Wait a second. Did he say risk? Because I've been told that these are all completely safe and there is no risk to taking it. Now all of a sudden I hear the word risk being used by one of, again, the biggest vaccine shills in the country. Even he's backing off of this. It almost feels like they know the narrative is about to change about this particular vaccine, and they want to back away from it because they don't want their names to go down as some of the people who were pushing this on the American public the whole time.
Well, I want to make this point. I think you could argue, you said earlier, you don't like being right. And I think you could argue that, a mass majority of people that got the vaccine are totally fine. But for the people that got the sudden adult death syndrome, for the people that got the myocarditis, for the women's menstrual cycles that are totally terrible, for the women that had the miscarriages, there's no really legal recourse because these companies have no liability. So they get to test stuff on mice and then literally test it on humans. So if you're out there and you want to be a human guinea pig, go and get your booster. But if a guy that sells these things, like Sarah said, is the #1 vaccine shill in the entire world, and he's going on CNN, the #1 shill network in the world, saying, hey, maybe you should take some precautions before you get this one that we didn't do any clinical testing on. Just extrapolate that to the other 2 previous vaccines. And I think, sadly, though, Sarah, is like the elephant in the room that we're not talking about now, but in the next year or 2, we are going to be talking about, we're going to even feel more guilty that we didn't do more to stop this.
Not me. My conscience is clear.
Mine's not.
I did my
terrible.
best.
And I have to get.
I feel terrible for people, but oops, I'm throwing stuff now. I tried. I did my best.
Yeah, but I was
called all sorts of names, and I still said this doesn't make sense. I'm telling you guys, you need to look at this.
And look, I'm sorry for calling you all those names, but what I was just saying, I think, look, the bottom line is you don't have to feel guilty because it's not your job to control their behavior, just like it's not their job to control yours. And I think that's the fundamental fall down we've had throughout this entire process. Again, I don't think there's ever been a good argument for a young child to get the vaccine, not because I think it's massively dangerous. I'm not necessarily on that bandwagon, but
Stu's like a big fan of vaccines.
You said, I'm a little upset you called him the #1 shill and not me.
I was going to say, I'm sorry, Stu.
But in all reality, I have 2 kids. I'm not afraid of the vaccine. I'm not afraid of COVID, right?
Yeah.
I'm not really afraid of either of them. But I didn't get my kids vaccinated, not because I think they were going to drop dead the next day, but because I just don't. I don't see what the big benefit is. They're by their age is their best defense to COVID, even when it was much more dangerous than it is today. And they got it. And they didn't. They're fine. So look, I can. If you're, I know people who parents, grandparents in their 80s. It's a different calculation for them, and I can understand why they made different decisions. But the idea that you're going to force this on anyone, even if they're 80 or 90, if they're 97 and then they have 19 comorbidities, they still should not be forced to do this. And just like you shouldn't be forcing people not to do it, should be able to make their own choices. And I don't know why. Especially a country like this, I expect that behavior out of Europe or Russia or some other place. Why that would be the norm here? The default position is you must do X, Y, and Z. That's just totally against our foundation. Yeah. It's totally against our country.
Well, my mom was forced to get vaccinated because she didn't want to lose her doctor. She was on Medicaid, and my mom died from COVID, and obviously the protocols between the hospital. So the vaccine didn't even save my mom. So of course I'm going to say that I'm anti-vax.
Your story goes deeper.
Yeah,
than
my
that,
story is
though.
really deep, and I can't even get into it on this short thing. So it just sucks. There's people like Stu that are totally fine. There's people like my mom that are dead. So it's just. Luck of the draw. Are you feeling lucky today?
All right. Well, now that Alex has totally brought us down, we're going to take a quick break and be right back. Have you heard the story?
I don't know that I have.
Over the weekend, the Twitter account Libs of TikTok exposed the University of Wisconsin for providing gender-affirming surgeries and drugs to minors. The director of their gender program, Dr. Catherine Gast, has previously stated that the hospital offers puberty blockers and hormonal treatment, and the pediatrics team works with the surgical team to do things like provide hysterectomies and removal of testicles. She says puberty blockers, completely safe, completely reversible. And in this video that we have, she detailed some of the gender-affirming surgeries the clinic offers, including vaginoplasties and double mastectomies. Great, watch.
Penile inversion vaginoplasty for trans feminine patients, so male to female, is taking a penis and essentially turning it into a vagina. So this is a very, functional results. Patients have orgasmic function and can have intercourse, and it looks actually cosmetically, patients are very satisfied. So we create a clitoris from a portion of the glans penis.
None of these are true.
The scrotal skin becomes the labia majora. A portion of the penile skin becomes the labia minora, and then we line the new vagina with the rest of the penile skin and sometimes a skin graft. So it's 5 hours in the operating room and about 6 to 8 weeks of recovery. Top surgery surgery, or female to male gender mastectomy, is for transmasculine patients who have significant dysphoria related to their breasts. So they don't want breasts anymore. So essentially it's a cosmetic mastectomy, and depending on the breast size and the amount of skin, we can use different kind of scar patterns and resection techniques using direct excision plus or minus liposuction to create a more male chest. It's 3 hours in the operating room. Patients go home the same day. They may or may not have drains, and they wear a compression vest post-op, but typically these patients are very happy.
The website noted several times she will, of course, operate on minors. And, of course, after this was uncovered, the University of Wisconsin privated all of their YouTube videos about the gender program and deleted the entire website. I don't understand why they keep deleting this crap.
Yeah.
If this is so fine and this is what you're supposed to be doing to children, and we're the hateful ones and we're the ones in the wrong, why do you find page not found? Why are they not proud of this? Why are they hiding it? Why is it that the drag show that I sent people into over the weekend at First Christian Church in Katy, Texas, why is it that they told people that they had to put their phones away and not actually record anything that was going on? Why is that?
I don't know. I don't know. It's just a shocking mystery. I will say I do agree with them that I would like to delete the last couple of minutes from my life. After hearing that, if we had the Men in Black sort of flashing wand, I would put that on right now. It's incredibly disturbing, and of course, the same thing keeps repeating. I mean, they went through how many times? I mean, it was Boston. I remember the Boston Children's Hospital. There's so many establishments that have said, "Oh, we don't do this for kids. We don't do this for kids. We don't do this for kids." And then there's just 2 days ago, a huge New York Times story about top surgery and how kids want it and how they're learning about it on TikTok. God. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Haven't you guys been telling us that we're hateful for even suggesting that it was a possibility? Now it's like a big advertisement and being talked about in the pages of the New York Times. There are certain things that just absolutely boggle the mind. I don't know how we go down these roads, how we get here.
Well, the libertarian part of my brain says, if you're over 18 and you want to do this, go ahead. But this is why, in my opinion, why they do it. I mean, these people literally want to play God. To actually go there and say that you can turn a penis into a vagina is an insult to a vagina, is an insult to God's creation, something so special that creates life. You can't just recreate a vagina, ovaries, a system that can create life. They can't do that. But they say, your penis is going to turn right into a vagina. It's not even close, and they look you in your face and they lie because they want to play God. They want to be the creator. And then, in essence, it's demonic and satanic by them, thinking that they have the power to do that, when in reality, everything she said sounds nice on paper, but when you have to have a dilator...
It does not sound nice on paper.
Well, I'm saying when she says it, I'm saying the way she says it. She tries to give it, we're just going to give you a labia, blah, 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 slice and dice. Now you have a new vagina.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. It's not 5-hour surgery. You have a perfect brand new vagina. Go ahead. It's not like that.
I do love that you're pointing that out, because that was what stuck with me about the videos. I'm like, it's not true. Like, she's trying to make it sound like, you can't tell the difference. It just looks like a normal vagina. It works like a normal vagina. The penis looks just the same as if it was a regular penis. None of this is true. Yeah. None of it is true. And please don't go Googling this, because you will regret it, okay?
I will not be doing that.
But one of the most famous, I guess, I don't know which way Blair leans right now, but at least previously conservative, Blair White, a transgender. This is born a male and now lives as a woman. And I just heard Blair discuss this on Michael Malice's podcast not that long ago about, like, it's not like that. It's actually, it's very gross, and they promise you that things will work a certain way, and it doesn't. And I was, reading about the smells that come with it, and it's like,
what on earth?
It's the same, but it's the same.
To be fair, I've been with biological women that are stinky too, but then go ahead.
But it's the same thing with abortion. They set these young people up. They set these young women up to think, like, you're going to celebrate this. It's going to be so great for you. You could have 20 of them, and you will be super happy about it. And they think, like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is going to work great for me. And then they go through with it, and then they live the rest of their life with all of this regret and all of this trauma, because the left has promised them that this is how they should be. And it's oftentimes, I mean, in the case of abortion, obviously, always, but, like, oftentimes very, very irreversible. And then they know they can't do anything. So I agree with you, Alex, on that, like, okay, if you're over 18, whatever. But I also do think that if you are in the medical community, you have some sort of responsibility to make sure that these people are actually like treated for the mental illness that they have, rather than just putting them in a position where they're going to have all of this trauma and regret for the rest of their life.
I think that's totally fair. It should be pretty obvious, I think, that everyone should be able to, because I think you're right. I mean, look, people are really weird and they do all sorts of strange things. As adults, that's one thing. But I mean, really, the thing that I think most people are most upset about is how they're pushing this on kids.
Yeah.
And it's becoming this sort of social contagion where kids think that it's a good idea. They are talked into it by their friends. And then their parents, instead of saying, hey, we're the parent, you're not a superhero, you're not a beetle, you are a human being, you're a boy or a girl, and that's it. And when you get older, you can start making all these strange decisions if you want to make them. Instead of being honest with them, they're saying, well, we need to have gender-affirming care. And just whatever you're saying right now, I'm going to encourage, which is, we all know, is the worst kind of parenting.
Yes.
Like, forget what the topic is. You don't just encourage anything your kid says. You make rational decisions. You make judgments based on facts. And the fact that they keep going down these roads with kids, putting them in positions where they can't reverse these decisions is honestly, like, for a person who is really, really skeptical about good things happening in the world, it shocks even me. Yeah. I mean, these are things that we would joke 5 years ago. I was watching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia a couple days ago, which of course is a show that I love, but it's a liberal show, and they're making a point, joking about a woman who, which was Dennis's wife, transitioning into a cat, and it's like, is that even a joke? Would they even make that joke today? This is 5 years ago they're making this joke. Would they make that joke today?
No.
Could you say, in a comedic sense, that it's ridiculous to transition to a cat today?
Only
Could you
if
do
you're
it?
Alex.
Yeah, it's well, that is a toxoplasmosis joke, which is a parasite in the fecal matter that turns you into a cat. And it's actually so strong that when mice get infected with it, they oftentimes crawl up to the cat with no fear because they think they're a cat, and then they get killed by a cat. So yeah, the idea.
What kind of weird facts do you have in your head?
That's a fact.
That's deep. That was a deep.
It's like a crazy cat lady.
It's like a computer with a lot of viruses. It's kind of like my brain. But you talk about It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I mean, they have some great episodes. You talk about creation and God, and so they actually I guess kind of mock these topics that are controversial.
Yeah.
And now they really can't do that. But back in the day, they had stuff. And I think, even though you said it's kind of this isn't the Always Sunny in Philadelphia review show, even though you said they kind of lean liberal, I think they always kind of gave it like a fair
They did a good job.
Like they kind of made fun of
yeah.
how it's not good to transition to a cat. They're making fun of it.
Oh, yeah.
And so you make a good point, though. In this media, in this day and age, they have to be ultra politically correct, where they can't even take any risks or make fun of anything that has to do with gender-affirming care, when we know in reality, if I want to eat Starburst for every meal as a kid, my parents wouldn't let me do that. Right. But if I want to have a mastectomy and cut off my breast, go ahead.
Yeah, that's really gross. All right, we've got to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
I'll take the Men in Black thing now.
Now?
Just for this 1 second.
Okay. Alex, you said earlier that what they are doing to children with all of this trans stuff is demonic. And I think case in point here, over in Spain, the Minister of Equality in Spain, yes, they have one of those over in Spain. The Minister of Equality, Irene Montero, recently said at a legislative meeting that Children X have the right to know that they can love or have sexual relations with whoever they want based on consent. Watch.
Las niñas, les niñas de este país tienen derecho,
because all the boys, the girls, the children X of this country have the right to get to know their own bodies, to know that no adult can touch their body if they don't want to, and that is a form of violence. They have the right to know that they can love or have sexual relations with whoever they want, based, of course, on consent. And these are acknowleded rights that they have. And that you don't like, because of course you're the hate monger, you're the bigot for saying that, like, oh, I don't know, children can't consent. Because it's weird. I feel like we have this system where children's parents are responsible for them up until they reach a certain age, and we've all decided that that's because children aren't very bright, and they're little, and they can't make really, really important decisions like who to sleep with. But apparently that's a thing of the past now. I'm just an old fuddy-duddy. I'm just old-fashioned because I don't believe that children have the ability to consent, I guess.
And they don't. I mean, that's disgusting. Just the fact that she said that makes me sick, and that's the culture where we're heading. And in my opinion, I would think that, a transition surgery is not much different than having sex with a child. It's an adult touching their sex organs. I know they use it under the guise of medical care, but this is where they want. They want to be able to have children consent to having sex with adults, and that's disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, children can't consent. I mean, you just said it. It's true. I mean, unless you're a forced bride in some Middle Eastern country somewhere.
Yeah.
And even that's wrong.
Yeah, it's certainly wrong morally, but I mean, even legally, you can't do that. I mean, that's what statutory rape is. You can't just talk some kid into doing something like that. Even if they say yes, they can't say yes. That's the point of having an age of consent. The age of consent means they have to get to that age before they can consent. So this is foreign not only to, I think, our country, but to the human experience generally. People generally know this used to be stuff we didn't have to say.
Well, it's not really foreign because in our invasion in the Middle East, in Afghanistan, there's a thing called the Bakabazi boys, and you might have heard about it. But wealthy Afghan elders will often have boys that they kind of mentor, that they have sex with, and then our own allies, if there are allies that our military would and there's lots of soldiers, that tell this story, how they would catch these men having sex with boys, and because they were allies, they wouldn't do anything about it. So, are you familiar with the Bakabazis?
No, but I didn't know the cat feces thing either.
Yeah, no, but okay. Well, you guys, if you're playing at home, look up the Bakabazi boys, where our military, our United States military, we're very aware of sexual abuse by elder Afghanistan men, and let it go because these men were considered our allies. So America's not, you want to give them plausible deniability. Oh, we don't know that happens. Trust me, there's people in important positions that know children are vulnerable to, sexual predators, and we do nothing about it.
Well, this particular story is going on in Spain, but don't think that it's coming here next. We have, we're talking about changing the term pedophile to minor attracted persons because you don't want to stigmatize these people.
If you say groomer, you get kicked off Twitter. If you say groomer, who is that protecting? The groomers?
Yeah. Yes, actually. The groomers and the groomer protectors. It's really, really sad. All right, we got to take a quick break. We'll be back.
You guys never heard of the Bakabazi boys?
No. Last week, Netflix debuted Dahmer Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, a 10-part fictional dramatization of his life, confession, arrest, and conviction of course, Jeffrey Dahmer. And, Dahmer was a homosexual, I don't know if everyone realizes that. Most of his victims were also gay, so Netflix actually tagged the series as LGBTQ content.
It is LGBTQ content.
The LGBTQ community was not happy with that tag, and so they have since removed.
So they only take responsibility for the really heartwarming, positive stories in the LGBTQ community. They don't have to take responsibility for the bad people in the community.
Yeah, it was like tags. Horror and LGBTQ.
I mean, look, I think LGBTQ people also deserve horror films, right? This would be a really scary thing that could happen to you if you happen to be LGBTQ.
Stu's advocating for equality here.
Exactly. I mean, they just like they try to replace the princesses with different colors and races and all sorts of things. Everyone deserves their own superhero, and everyone deserves their own villain, apparently. No, but this is a true story.
Yeah,
this is not really a fictional tale. This really happened. This is what this guy did.
And this is a really edgy episode because I gotta bring up this point because we cannot talk about Jeffrey Dahmer without bringing this up. John and Tony Podesta, they're brothers, and John Podesta is obviously, Hillary Clinton's, right-hand man, who ran her whole entire campaign. Their art collection, they have one of the biggest art collections, and there's a section of their art collection that's focused on the Jeffrey Dahmer crimes, where they actually have how they do paper mache of, if you watch this thing in this documentary, Jeffrey Dahmer would kill people in his grandmother's house, and he'd cut off their penis, he'd cut off their genitals, and he'd put it in their refrigerator.
Yes.
He would save parts. That's what he was one of these type of serial killers that liked tokens of his murders. And so what happens is this guy, John Podesta and Tony Podesta, they have an art exhibit. You guys can look this up. About Jeffrey Dahmer, and these are paper maches of what it would have looked like, what the parts would have looked like that Jeffrey Dahmer would have cut up. If you guys don't believe me, type in Tony Podesta, Jeffrey Dahmer art. You can look it up. So these sick people that are in power, these elitists, they love Jeffrey Dahmer. So it's kind of weird that he gets idolized. He gets this Netflix special. Put on your tinfoil hats. Get your Google search bar
I feel
ready.
like anytime Alex tells you to Google search something,
never
don't do it.
I said if you do it, the FBI's coming to your house.
Don't do it, please.
Now I'll take the Men in Black thing.
I told you to wait. I told you didn't know.